Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today's episode, I'm changing the tires on my 08X scooter. Now the first step in the process is to take everything apart. I had to take the brakes off as well as the disc on the wheel itself. The most important thing here is just to pay attention to how it's wired. You're going to have to make sure that you run this cable exactly the way it is here to make sure that it operates correctly. Now I continued on by removing the arms here. It's also very helpful if you have something to prop this up on. You don't have a lot of room to work with because the motor's connected to the scooter still. So just whatever you can find around the house. I used just some random box that I had here and that seemed to work very well. One thing I want to talk about while I'm just getting everything taken apart is how difficult this actually was. Not so much taking everything apart, that wasn't so bad, but putting it back together, getting the core inside of the wheel and fastening everything back together, that was actually really difficult. And I knew that it was going to be a challenge, but I just didn't anticipate it being this difficult. Now what I did to get everything separated was I just used a mallet and I hit on the opposite side of where the motor wires ran, because I knew that would force this apart and kind of separate them. So once I got a little bit of space, then I just used a piece of wood and hit it on the ground to separate the magnets, and then used my feet to get some leverage to pull everything apart. Now once the core is out, this is going to be the most physically demanding part of this process. You really have to use a lot of force to get the core back into the new tire. Even though it is a solid tire, it is pretty flexible, and so I used some tire irons and I was actually able to spread it open enough to use my foot to kind of push everything through. Now once I got the core in the wheel, I used a mallet and a piece of scrap wood to apply even pressure and just kind of smacked on that thing a few times until I could get it down inside. And then I turned the piece of wood over so I could get a little bit more directed pressure and just tapped it in to get it finished. The set screws on the outside of the motor actually come in two different sizes. The reason they do this is because you need to clamp this down in order to get the tire to separate and seal everything off. The longer screws are there to help pull everything together. So after you've screwed the first side down, you remove the long screws and replace them with the short screws. On the opposite side, you're going to use the long screws, and after they're screwed down, you're just going to leave those there. The last thing I wanted to do before I put it all back together was just clean everything up. This is a good opportunity with everything apart to make sure I can get in all the nooks and crannies and make sure it was looking brand new. Now after the motor's put back together, the last thing to do is attach the suspension arms and then mount the wheel. When you do attach the arms, just make sure you're mindful of how that motor wire is ran so you don't run into any problems down the road. So that's pretty much going to do it. Once you complete this process for one wheel, you just do the exact same thing for the other wheel. I hope this was helpful to somebody that has an 8X and they're thinking about changing their tires. Just do keep in mind, this is difficult. It's one of the harder upgrades that I've done to the scooter, and just be prepared to spend some time with this because it is a frustrating process. So with that being said, if you guys have any comments, please make sure you leave them below. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.